Okay, if season 3 doesn't start off this way, I'm just a little disappointed. Luke should show up on Mando's doorstep with Grogu in hand and saying, "Here, you got to take this kid. He eats everything." Hey, Rob from Order 42 here, and yeah, I'm a little excited because Star Wars is back. Star Wars is back in a big way. Let's talk about the season finale of The Mandalorian. Since I assume that you've already seen the episode, you have to have, right? I mean, I put a spoiler warning at the beginning of the video. Anyway, this is not a scene for scene breakdown of the episode. It's just not what I like to do. I like to go into some of the highlights, some of the things that I really want to call out. So let's get going. We've got some amazing shots in this episode. Slave One landing with them meeting with Bo-Katan. I love this exchange between Bo-Katan and Boba Fett, basically saying, "You're not a Mandalorian, you're just a clone, and I've heard your voice thousands of times." And then he replies, "Mine might be the last one you hear." Come on. That's awesome. That's an awesome exchange. And then we got, like I said, there's so many beautiful shots in this episode. I mean, wallpaper worthy. You know what I mean? There's just good stuff. This sequence was super cool. We got to see the way that the TIE fighters are stored in the hangars and then how they're launched. And I love the way that, it's just the way that they're hanging. You've got these arms from the top. It's just cool looking. You get this shot of the pilot basically gun it. And it looks like there's some sort of accelerator in this tunnel that shoots them out the front of the hangar. And it's just a cool looking scene. And it's one of those things we've just never seen before. Amazing shots in this episode. Almost like iconic looking shots. The Mando exiting the shuttle. I just loved the way that the shot looked. Of course, Mando doesn't make it in time to stop the Dark Troopers from deploying. And we get a really cool action scene and showing how ominous these things are and how hard they are to beat. I love these shots of the Dark Trooper just pounding into Mando's helmet. And of course, it doesn't damage the helmet, but you see it just kind of like denting the wall behind him. It's so awesome. And it's a pretty effective scene showing how hard it is to defeat these Dark Troopers. And it was just a fun scene to watch. And he expels them outside the thing, and we're like, yeah, we don't have to worry about them anymore. And he opens the door, and there he is. There's Moff Gideon holding the Darksaber. Of course we're gonna get this scene, right? Moff Gideon saying, "Oh yeah, you can just take him. I've got what I need. It's good." He withdraws the Darksaber, and everything's okay. And then he attacks, right? And we get this amazing scene. This scene is really cool just for the small little details. It's one of those things that, especially on a rewatch, it was really cool to see. You see these the way that the sparks come off the Beskar from the Darksaber, the way that it marks it on the wall, and then you can actually see the Beskar heating up as they make connections. And the Darksaber's making a connection, it heats up the Beskar, and then it cools off really quickly. After the connection's broken, it's just a really cool scene. And this right here, lore-wise, is a pretty interesting scene because we see that Mando's just trying to hand over the Darksaber. Here you go. And Moff Gideon is explaining that, no, that's not how it works. The Mandalorians at large won't accept Bo-Katan as the leader with the Darksaber if she hasn't won the Darksaber in battle. And it's funny because the first thing I thought was sort of like Harry Potter, and the wands choose the wizards, right? And if you defeat the wizard, then that wand is now yours, and its allegiance is only to you, not to the person that lost the wand. So I was thinking, okay, so the Darksaber has some sort of mind of its own, but that's not how it works. It's literally the Mandalorians won't accept the leader if they haven't won the Darksaber in battle. So it's going to be an interesting thing going forward, because I would think season 3 we would be dealing with this a little bit, So I don't know. It's an interesting thing, but of course the whole idea too is that it's not like Mando has to die. When Moff Gideon didn't die. And he's the Darksaber is Mando's, so I don't know. It's going to be an interesting development. And of course, let's get into it. The X-Wing comes And because of because of an errant tweet, I had an idea that it was going to probably be Luke that shows up. When I saw the X-Wing, I'm like, okay, so it is Luke. I can't believe it. And I will say to you the words. The words that I said was, the crazy sons of bitches did it. That's what I said, because I'm like, I can't believe they actually did it. And yeah, boy, did they do it. And we get to see Luke in amazing fashion taking these guys out. It's very Rogue One in the way that this action scene takes place. And I have to say, it's just it's a combination of things, right? You've got the emotion of seeing, your hero, right? A hero that we've been watching for years in his prime, doing his thing, right? And then this image of Grogu watching him and touching the screen, it's something that it turned on the waterworks for me immediately. I mean, I started to tear up, and I'm like, I can't cry right now. I need to watch this. It was just amazing stuff. And we get to see him do things that yeah, we expected a Jedi to be able to do, but it's just cool to actually see it. It's one thing to hear about it or to read about it. It's another thing to see it in full live action. It was glorious. If you're a Star Wars fan and you're not affected by this, then I don't know what to tell you, because it is it's one of those moments that we've been waiting to see. It's amazing stuff. Let's be honest here. The CG is a little wonky here. It's just a little wonky. It's a little off. But it doesn't matter. It really doesn't. It's almost like they earned so much geek cred by bringing Luke Skywalker back, in his prime, that I don't think a lot of people, they might say, the lip syncing isn't perfect, and this isn't perfect, and it doesn't sound exactly, it's not exactly perfect, but come on. How can you not be affected by this? It's weird. There's so many things that happen in this episode. There's so many amazing moments. This is the heart of the show here. I mean, all of this amazing stuff has happened, but this is the heart of the show. This is the heart of the episode, is Grogu not only being rescued, but being delivered to the Jedi, being delivered to, his family, really, and it's a heartbreaking scene. It is just, and it's gorgeous. It's gorgeously shot, and damn it, Pedro Pascal brought it. And it's kind of funny. You're sitting there looking at a man staring down at a puppet, and you believe it. You believe it. It's such a beautiful exchange, a beautiful scene. And Grogu being very scared to go and not sure if he wants to go. And I got to be honest, R2 showing up was a surprise. It was to me. I can't believe I hadn't thought of it earlier. But when R2 showed up, it was like I was already, at the verge of sobbing. But then R2 shows up, and I feel like he was shortchanged in the sequel trilogy. To see him like this was just amazing. And this little exchange with him and Grogu, and just basically making Grogu comfortable, it's just a beautiful scene. The way that this is shot, the way that this is edited, it's beautiful. The team of Jon Favreau, Dave Filoni, and Peyton Reed did what I thought was impossible. And they brought Star Wars fans back. They brought Star Wars fans back to Star Wars. It's such an amazing thing to see. You can see it on Twitter. People that hadn't talked about Star Wars at all in months, or even years, were jubilant. They were so happy, and it was an amazing thing to see. Sure, there's some issues with the CG there at the end. I mean, yeah, the lip sync on Luke isn't perfect, but who cares? I mean, we had something, like I said, it's amazing to see. It's amazing to see the transition from people who are just done with Star Wars to being back and being happy about it. It's beautiful to see. I mean, how can I possibly think that's a bad thing? How can anyone, really? A couple of interesting tidbits, right? Pershing is identified as a clone engineer. So it's not just, trying to get a high midichlorian count. It's literally for cloning. This has got to be for Snoke and possibly the Emperor, right? This has got to be. Moff Gideon even says in this conversation with Mando in Grogu's cell there that that this has the potential to bring order to the galaxy, and he actually accentuates the word order. So I have to believe that that's what this is all leading toward, right? So a couple of things here. This is kind of fun. My wife and I, we talked about the episode afterward, and she had some questions. She had some things that she was a little like curious about. She goes, if this whole Mandalorian lore, right, from as far as like surrounding the Darksaber, if that's such a well-known thing, and that there's a very, very big chance that someone who didn't win the Darksaber wouldn't or couldn't be accepted as the true leader. If that's all true, then how did Mando not know this? How did Din Djarin, a Mandalorian, not know this? Kind of an interesting question. One of the things that I didn't realize and I didn't think about during the episode was, why didn't anybody pick up the Darksaber to fight the Dark Troopers? I mean, Luke's not there yet, right? It's looking pretty grim. You would think that someone would have picked up the Darksaber, right? And then when my wife brought that up, because I was like, yeah, I didn't even think about that. But as soon as she said it, it was like, oh man, what a missed opportunity. Because you could have had, let's just say Mando, pick up that Darksaber and slice through those Dark Troopers at the same time, and you could almost have sort of a Last Jedi kind of throne room scene, where they're almost back to back. How awesome would that have been? I mean, that would have been sweet. The only thing, and this is one of those things that you kind of realize after you watch the episode, and if you think about it, a little bit, you're kind of like, why didn't Bo-Katan actually explain that? If it was something that could have been maybe not the most well-known, maybe she could have explained, hey, I need to defeat Moff Gideon so I can have the Darksaber, so I can have the Mandalore, right? Seems like that would have been a thing to explain if there was any question, could have just been one of those things that she could have just dropped. And it's one of those things that always kind of irritates me sometimes, is that and sometimes, and this is in general, shows in general, movies, whatever, if something could have been explained by two characters just having a conversation, that's kind of annoying, in a way. It's almost like an artificial plot device, right? It's like, it's like Pee-wee with the bike behind him, and, of course, if he had just looked over, the movie would be over. But it's just one of those things. It's kind of like, come on. You know what I mean? It's, I don't know. Is that a, it's not a big deal. It really isn't a big deal, but it's just one of those things to mention. An episode like this, I mean, come on. It's amazing. If this isn't a 3 3/4 or 4-star episode, I don't know what is. I don't know. But it got me thinking, where do we go from here? I mean, if you think about a series, how many times has this happened where, oh, first season's, man, that's pretty good. Second season is like, oh my God, that was amazing. And then the third season is kind of like, eh. So I guess it really depends on what they're looking for, right? It depends on what Disney's and Lucasfilm's plan for The Mandalorian going forward is. Is this going to be a super long series? Or is this is really just a way to bring people back, and then, hey, we're like fireworks. All of these different series are going to start popping up. I don't know. I guess my biggest issue was that my original idea of what The Mandalorian was going to be as a series was going to be like Kung Fu, the show Kung Fu, where you've got a guy on a journey, right? And in this case, you've got a little adorable Grogu that he can take along on these adventures. And that's what the show is. The show is them getting in adventures. That's obviously not what they're going for here, which is fine. But it's one of those things where it's like, I don't know. Could that have been a thing? Let's put it to you this way, okay? Would everyone be as excited right now about Star Wars if it had just been that way? No. But could it have been more longevity-wise? I don't know. But if this is the thing that's going to bring Star Wars fans back to Star Wars, I mean, that's good for Disney, right? One of the things that actually my wife said when we were having this conversation, she's like, well, think about the way that they do some of these things, right? A lot of times on network TV, they plan out a limited number of series because what inevitably happens is if something gets really, really popular, the stars get really in demand and they don't have the time to sit and do multiple seasons of a show. So it's better to do little short, 3-4 season arcs, or 3-4 season, and that's the show. The whole show is like 4 seasons or 3 seasons, right? And then the stars, they boost, this huge boost in popularity, and they can go on and do other things, and they don't have to sit and work around a series that they have to film every 6 to 8 months to a year. It makes sense. So maybe that's the whole plan here. Think about how difficult it is to sign one of these huge actors to a Marvel deal because you've got multiple movies. I mean, it's a huge investment, not only of your time, but of your talent to say, I'm going to be in 10 of these movies in the next 5 years. That's a lot of time to spend on one character. So it all makes sense. I just wonder what the plan is. We're not privy to that yet. I said earlier on a separate, I don't know if it was one of the live streams or one of my standalone episode reviews, but one of the things that was always kind of irritating to me is that the show seemed like it was becoming less and less about the Mandalorian. I mean, it was basically Mandalorian and friends, right? I don't know if I feel the same way now. And I'll tell you why. I love the fact that people are being united again. I love the fact that we can pretty much all agree that the sequel trilogy was mismanaged. It wasn't the best. There were issues from the beginning that continued all the way through to episode 9. And yes, you can be a fan of those things. That's cool. I'm a fan of some of it, and I'm not a fan of some of it. But the issue is now we can all unite around this thing that, The Mandalorian has become a phenomenon, not just because of Grogu, but now you've got Bo-Katan in there. You've got Ahsoka in there. You've got Boba Fett in there. And now Luke. This is the kind of thing that brings Star Wars fans together. It's awesome to see. Now I'm just going to throw this out there, okay? Just throw it out there. I wonder what Lucas thinks about all this. Because the one thing that I can say is that I feel like in a lot of ways, this season of The Mandalorian, even more than the first one, feels very fan servicey, right? In a good way, but it's still very fan servicey. It makes you wonder if Lucas looks at it and goes, "Yeah, it's all the you're not even tasting the cake. You've just got the frosting on top. The cake is where I don't know why I'm using a cake analogy, but the cake is where all the life lessons and all the philosophy is. And all you guys are just up there enjoying the frosting." I like frosting, but I also like cake. So it's one of those things that for me, it's the one thing that I feel like we're missing is that deeper lore. Now, I started thinking about it, and Dave Filoni is one of those people that he starts off with a bunch of frosting, but then later in the series is where the really deep stuff comes up, right? You guys who have seen the Clone Wars and Rebels know that, yeah, it starts off pretty light. But then all of a sudden, it's like, okay, we're into the stuff now. We're into some cool stuff. And I highly suggest, if you're a fan of The Mandalorian, you owe it to yourself to check out the Clone Wars and Rebels. And while you're at it, you might as well check out Sending the Clones, a little podcast that I did with my old buddy Bucho from New Zealand. We break down each and every episode of the Clone Wars. It's pretty cool. I'm just saying, you can check it out if you want. I would say that after about an hour after the episode, I was a little bummed out because it was like, man, I feel like the Mandalorian, like Din Djarin, right? The character of Din Djarin, he just didn't get enough. It seemed like he was always second fiddle in this this season. You know, he was constantly being pushed aside for whatever, you know, fan favorite of the week happens to be in the episode. But then I started to think, I bet you Pedro Pascal is proud right now. I bet he is so happy that the show that he's involved with, that he's the main character in, is the show that united Star Wars fans again. I mean, that's got to feel good, right? And I will also say that if you're one of those people, there are people out there that say, oh, Kathleen Kennedy's the worst thing to ever happen to Star Wars. If you like The Mandalorian, you have to credit Kathleen Kennedy for a lot of that. And I don't believe that she's responsible for all of the issues in the sequel trilogy either. I can honestly tell you that by looking at the big picture, right, and looking at interviews and things like that over the last 7 years, you know, since Disney has been the parent of Lucasfilm, I can tell you that I don't think all of the issues with the sequel trilogy are due to Kathleen Kennedy's mismanagement. I really don't. I think that because of the large investment that Disney put into Lucasfilm, they were a little more hands-on that they let on. And all I can say is, if you're interested in that, if you think I may be wrong, search out Bob Iger's interview on StarWars.com. It's a little eye-opening. Now, here's the thing. This is the fun part. What's next? Okay? Because we got this beautiful stinger at the end of the episode, this post-credits sequence. Of course, as we know, this takes place after Return of the Jedi. And we get to see who's in charge of Jabba the Hutt's domain. And it's Bib Fortuna, and Boba Fett comes in and takes over. We get this message that the book of Boba Fett is starting December 2021. If you look back at the Disney Investor Day thing with Kathleen Kennedy up there talking about The Mandalorian, she didn't say anything except the next chapter starts December of 2021, which has led a lot of people to think, so is Mando being cast aside and now it's all going to be about Boba Fett? I mean, he's technically a Mandalorian, right? I mean, you could do that. Then a lot of other people are saying that would be ridiculous. It would be ridiculous to shift off of Din Djarin at this point. You can't do that. I don't know what the plan is. All I know is I'm excited either way. I feel like in a lot of ways this was wrapping up Din Djarin's story to a point. I mean, we've got the Darksaber, right? But his quest that he got basically at the, you know, in season 1, it's wrapped up now. So it kind of feels like a natural place to break for a bit and tell a new story. I'm not sure. All I know is I'm excited. And again, we've got all of these amazing series coming. It's a great day. It's a great day to be a Star Wars fan, and it feels awesome to have this unification of people again, because that's what I was hoping. I don't know what else to say. It's just a great day. You know, it's a great day to see all of these people who hadn't talked about Star Wars for years suddenly talking about it with love again. You know, it's just, and then of course all the people that were still around, that still loved everything, they love it even more. It's just a great day. It's a great day to be a Star Wars fan, and there's so much to look forward to. So what do you think? What do you think about all this? Did you love this episode as much as I did? Are you looking forward to what's coming next? Let me know your thoughts down below, and we'll talk about it, because look, there's a lot. There's just a lot. And if you like this video, please consider hitting that like button. It really does help the channel out. And if you're new here, hit that subscribe button, because we've got so much to come. So thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.